Yeah. So, hello students, I am Hema Rajesh, tutor for biology. Today I will be covering anatomy of flowering plants. Before I proceed to lesson, I shall briefly run through how to access revision notes and test in clay6.com. So this is just open the page clay6.com, go to practice, click on practice. You will see a lot of packages, so you can select any package which you need. Now since we are doing for NEET, let me click the NEET Premium package. And then you will see lot of tests. Under each subject you have so many tests, and there you can also the NEET full test. Since we are doing with grade 11 biology, I have clicked there. So here if you look at it, you will be saying chapter wise tests. There are many tests depending upon the complexity and also the number of questions that are being asked in the exam. And here you find the tests in different colored bubbles. So the green bubble means you have already completed the test, but you can again retake the test any number of times as you want for practice. Suppose in one test you have scored less marks, maybe you want to improve your score and see how much you can recollect again, and to improve your understanding you can click the same test again. If it is blue, you have not yet started the test. If it is R, then it is a randomized test. So this red bubble says that as you have completed the lower these two tests or three tests, whatever it is before, if you just click it, it will be of increasing complexity, and this will help you to understand the how well you are prepared for in this chapter. Now, if it is a yellow bubble, it means you have started the test and you are not completed the test. It might be due to the fact that after doing 2 or 3 questions, you might have felt that you are not adequately prepared, and so you want to prepare and revisit the test again. You would have discontinued the test, or due to technical issues, you would have lost the connectivity. Whatever it is, you can still come and complete the test and see your scores. This we will be doing again at the end when I do it to you, when I take you to the test. Now this is about the this. If you click here, revision notes will pop up, and that will, it's a comprehensive revision notes that has been prepared keeping in view the requirements of NEET. So it would be of great help if you are able to get one for yourself and prepare along with the package. Now the question most of the students ask is, what is it really going to be? How is NEET really going to be? Because many of you are writing for the first time. For us, it is always the kind, what do you say, there would be an adrenaline rush when we had to write the exam. And so many questions, you would have seen books and books, you would have solved many questions, yet you are not very confident. That is because you always have the fear. Now I tell you, relax, there is nothing, it's not going to be it's not a rocket science actually. Now, if you look at the NCERT books, that is the NEET question papers, around 68 to 70 questions are straight from your NCERT textbook. You can easily score them right if you have studied NCERT meticulously. And you might have heard many saying NCERT is a Bible. So I would always prescribe that you study NCERT thoroughly. And sometimes even in the before beginning of the unit, there is an introduction to the scientist. So that also is very important. And at the end, you have a synopsis at the end of the chapter. That is also important. So please make a note of all these things during your preparation. They are going to be very, very handy. And around 8 to 10 questions will be from the past year's papers. So if you look at it, when we are seeing, we have analyzed it, either the questions are just given like that or with slight modifications. So you will be able to tackle the questions very easily. And last 8 to 10 questions are going to be the real game changers, because they are the questions that would not have appeared in any of the entrance exams, that is in the previous year's papers also. So these 10 will be again from NCERT, again from your textbook within the syllabus, not beyond it, but it requires your application. If you just mug up the textbook and go there, it is not possible. You need to apply the concepts, and that is why Clay 6 is now making An earnest attempt has been made by Clay 6 to help you to gear up to face all the three types of questions. Now today, let me begin with the lesson. I think you're clear with this background of framework of your NEET exams. Let me start the lesson, Anatomy of Flowering Plants. So, you know, anatomy is the study of internal structure of an organism, and plant anatomy includes organization and structure of plant tissues. Now, we have already discussed what is a tissue, a group of similar cells along with intercellular substances that perform a common function. Now, in the plant cells, the tissues are divided into meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Now, let us look at the meristematic tissue. So, meristematic tissues are the tissues that have the ability to divide. So, they still keep on dividing, and that is why they are called as meristomes or meristematic tissue. Meristomes are of three types: apical, intercalary, and lateral meristomes. Apical meristomes occur at the tip of the roots and shoots that produce primary tissue. Example, root apical meristem and shoot apical meristem. Intercalary meristem, they occur in mature tissues. In grasses, they help in regenerating parts that are lost by grazing herbivores. Apical and intercalary meristems appear early in the life of the plant, and they contribute to the formation of the plant body. Now let us look at the lateral meristem. It is also known as secondary meristem. The meristems that occur in the mature regions of roots and shoots of many plants, especially that produce woody axis and appear later than the primary meristems, these are called as the lateral meristems. Now let us look into the permanent tissues. Now these tissues are derived from the meristematic tissue and are composed of cells that have lost the ability to divide. So they have undergone differentiation now into a mature cell, and these tissues are called as permanent tissues. Now depending upon the kind of tissues that get in, they can be classified as simple permanent tissue or complex permanent tissue. If you look at simple permanent tissue, they are made up of only one kind of cell. That is why they are called simple permanent tissue. Now, what are the types of simple permanent tissue? Parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Now, let us look at each of them individually. So, this is a parenchyma cell. This forms the major component within the organs. Cells are generally isodiametric but can be spherical, oval, round, polygonal, or elongated. Walls are thin and they are chemically made up of cellulose. They can be closely packed or have little intercellular spaces. They perform functions like photosynthesis, storage, and secretion. Now let us look at the next tissue, collenchyma. Collenchyma occurs in layers below the epidermis. They are found as homogeneous layer in patches. Cells are thickened at the corners due to the deposition of cellulose, hemicellulose, and pectin. So in the previous one, it was only cellulosic cell walls. Here, the cell walls will have the deposition of cellulose, hemicellulose, and pectin. Here also, cells may be oval, spherical, or polygonal. Intercellular spaces are absent because of the deposition. It provides mechanical support to the plants. Because of these elements that are present in the cell wall, these provide the mechanical support. Now, the last type of simple permanent is sclerenchyma. Now, sclerenchyma consists of narrow cells with lignified cell walls. They are usually dead without any protoplast. They occur in two types. One is the fiber, other is a scleroid. Fibers are thick-walled, elongated. You can see them tapering at both the ends. They occur in groups in various plant parts. Scleroids are found as spherical, oval, or cylindrical, highly thickened dead cells with narrow lumen. They also occur in the fruit walls of guava, pears, and sapota. That is why when you bite the apple, or when you bite a pear, then what happens? You feel the crunchy feel. That is because of the presence of the scleroids. And this also provides the mechanical support to the plant body. Now let us look at the complex permanent tissue. Why are they called complex? Because the combination of these simple permanent tissues only make up this one complete tissue called the complex permanent tissue, and two complex permanent tissues are xylem and phloem. Now, what are the components of the xylem? Let us look into it. You know, xylem is the food conducting tissue of the plant. It provides mechanical support too. There are four kinds of tissues that are seen in the xylem. They are tracheid vessels, xylem fibers, and xylem parenchyma. Now let us look into each of these cells briefly. Tracheids are elongated or tube-like cells with thick lignified walls and tapering ends. It is dead without protoplasm. From this you can identify that it is made up of sclerenchyma. Vessels are long, cylindrical, tube-like structures made up of many cells called vessel members, each with lignified walls and a large central cavity. Vessels are also dead as they are devoid of protoplasm. And remember, gymnosperms lack vessels. Xylem fibers. They have thickened walls with narrow lumen. They may have partitions or lack partitions. So they are described as septate or aseptate. This is also devoid of protoplasm. So if you look at the elements of the xylem, tracheids, vessels, and xylem fibers, they are all dead tissues. That is why I said apart from conducting, they also give the mechanical support. Now, if you look at xylem parenchyma, it is living and thin-walled with cellulosic cell walls. Xylem parenchyma stores food materials in the form of starch or fat or other substances like tannins. Ray parenchymatous cells help in radial conduction of water. Now, before we go on to the next thing, I would like you to make a note of the terms associated with xylem. One is the protoxylem, that is first formed xylem. Proto is first. So first formed xylem element is called protoxylem. Metaxylem, later formed xylem element. Exarch arrangement. Protoxylem lies towards the periphery. Ex means outside. Exo is outside. So with reference to the xylem, protoxylem, if the protoxylem is lying towards the periphery, that is towards the outside, and metaxylem lies in the center, it is called exarch arrangement. This exarch and endarch arrangements are with reference to protoxylem. So remember that. Now, endarch xylem means protoxylem lies towards the center and metaxylem lies towards the periphery. I give you 2 minutes time, kids. Make a note of it. Okay, now I come, sorry. Okay, now I come back to phloem. So here we are looking at the phloem. You know, phloem is the food conducting tissue and it is made up of sieve tube elements, companion cells, phloem fibers and phloem parenchyma. Now this is the structure of a phloem cell. Now let me describe to you each and every element in it. Sieve tube elements are long tube-like structures. They are arranged longitudinally and are in close association with companion cells. End walls are perforated by sieve plates. A mature sieve tube element possesses a peripheral cytoplasm, a large vacuole, and lacks a nucleus. Nucleus of the companion cell controls the function of the sieve tube. Companion cells are specialized parenchyma cells that are closely associated with sieve tube elements. Companion cells and sieve tube elements are interconnected through pit fields present between their common walls. Phloem parenchyma is made up of elongated, tapering, cylindrical cells with dense cytoplasm and nucleus. Phloem parenchyma helps in storage of food material and other substances like resin, latex, and mucilage. Phloem parenchyma is absent in most of the monocots. If you look above here, these elements, sieve tube elements, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, they are living. Only phloem fiber is the dead tissue. It is made up of sclerenchymatous tissue. Phloem fibers are absent in primary phloem but are present in secondary phloem. Cell wall is thick. they lose protoplasm and become dead at maturity. So I hope you have understood about xylem and phloem. Now have a look at the kinds of cell wall depositions that happen in the xylem and phloem. So this is very important because they might ask you the picture, though it is not there in NCERT. In 3 or 4 question papers they have asked. So we thought it would be a game changer for you too. So we have put this as a slide here. Now if you look at different types of longitudinal thickenings, A and B are annular. Annular means ring-like thickenings. C and D are spiral. Spiral, that is they appear spiral in shape. Scalariform is ladder-like. Reticulate, if you look, E and F are ladder-like, and this is called as the scalariform thickening. Now G, if you look, it is reticulate in the form of a network. H and I are called simple pitted and bordered pitted. So pitted ones. So though it is not there, this diagram they have asked, so we thought we will project it. I just give you 2 minutes. Just make a rough diagram or make a note so that it becomes easier for you. Okay. I hope you have made this one. Now, what are the terms associated with phloem? Protophlloem. First formed phloem elements with narrow sieve tubes. So, the protophlloem that is formed first is called as protophlloem, and the sieve tubes are narrow. Metaphloem are later formed phloem elements with bigger sieve tubes. Okay, now let us, sorry. Now let us get back. Now let us get back to the tissue system. So, we had to learn 3 types of tissue system in this chapter: epidermal tissue system, ground tissue, and vascular bundles. Now, epidermal tissue means, epi means outside. So, derma is the layer. So, it forms the outermost covering of the whole plant body. Epidermal cells, stomatal cells, epidermal appendages called trichomes and hair, and stomata all form the epidermal tissue system. Epidermis is usually single layered. It is made up of parenchyma cells with small amount of cytoplasm and a large vacuole. Cuticle forms a waxy layer outside the epidermis which prevents the loss of water. But cuticle will not be present in the roots because in the roots, the roots have to absorb the water. So they can't have a layer which is impervious to water, and so roots lack cuticle. Stomata are structure present in the epidermis which regulates transpiration. Transpiration means loss of water in the form of vapor from the aerial parts of the plant, and they also help in gaseous exchange during photosynthesis and respiration. Now, epidermis has number of hairs. If present in the root, they are called as root hairs, and if they are present in the stem, they are called as the trichomes. They can be branched, unbranched, stiff or soft. Now, trichomes also prevent water loss by transpiration. So, these are the key points which you had to learn about tissue system. Now, let us look at the ground tissue. Now, ground tissue means the tissue that is in between epidermis and the vascular bundle constitute the ground tissue. Also, it is made up of parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Parenchyma is present in the cortex, pericycle, pith, medullary rays, in the primary stems and roots. In leaves, ground tissue has chloroplast containing cells called chlorenchyma that forms the mesophyll tissue. Now, vascular tissue system. So, this is about it. Vascular bundles means it is made up of xylem and phloem. The individual structures we have already studied above. So, it consists of xylem and phloem. Cambium is present in between dicots between xylem and phloem, and it has the ability to form secondary xylem and phloem. resulting in secondary growth. Hence, dicots are said to have an open vascular bundle. Monocots lack cambium and hence do not show secondary growth and are called closed vascular bundles. So if you look at the classification of vascular bundles, radial bundles and conjoined bundles. Conjoined bundles can be collateral, bicollateral, concentric, open and closed. Now please have a terms, okay? Before we get into this, now let us look into the plant cells and their specialization. Before I get into the dicot root stem, now have a look at this, make a note of it. Plant cells and their specialization, because 1 markers they have asked for questions that could be game changers. Cells of roots or shoot tips specialize for cell division and produce new protoplasm. Epidermis, it helps in water retention. Cutin and wax act as barriers against fungi and insects. Epidermal gland cells helps in production of toxins that inhibit animals from harming them, and vascular cells transport water, mineral and organic molecules. So if you want, I'll just give you 2 minutes time, make a note of it. Okay, next I start with flower cells. This also they have asked. So the cells that attract the pollinators, you have to write it as petal cells. Scent cells, fragrances that attract the pollinators. Nectary cells, sugars that attract the pollinator. And fruit cells produce sugars, aroma, flavored compounds that attract fruit eating and seed dispersing animals. Now, these are the terms. Please make a note of it. These definitions are very important. Radial vascular bundle. When xylem and phloem are arranged in an alternate manner on different radii, example as in roots, you call it as radial vascular bundle. So either they might give you this radial vascular bundle and give you the choices to identify the correct choice, or they may give the definition and ask you to identify which term suits it. Now, conjoint vascular bundle, when the xylem and phloem are arranged on the same radius, example stems and leaves. Collateral vascular bundle, a vascular bundle in which phloem and xylem lie on the same radius, with the phloem located towards the periphery of the stem and xylem towards the center. Amphicribal, vascular bundles in which phloem surrounds the xylem. Amphivasal, vascular bundles in which xylem surrounds the phloem. So these terms are very important. I give you time, please make a note of it. Okay, let me move to the next. So this is the position of the vascular bundles, radial. So they occur on different radii, xylem and phloem. Here you will find phloem and xylem here. This is conjoint and it is closed. Closed means a strip of cambium is absent here and it is closed for secondary growth, because cambium plays an important role in secondary growth. Now this is also a conjoint thing, but you find cambium present in between xylem and phloem and it is open for secondary growth. That is why if it is opened or closed, it means it is with reference to secondary growth. Now let us look at the dicot root. So these diagrams you have to understand, practice at least the labelings, because it is very, very important. So this is the root hair. If it is a dicot stem, it could be a trichome. Here it is a root, so it is a root hair. This is the epidermis. This is the cortical region. This is the endodermis, and this is the pericycle. So you have to understand the positions of protoxylem, metaxylem, pith, and the phloem. So this is very, very important. They will ask you to identify it as A, B, C, and D, and then they might ask you to identify the parts. Now let me explain to you in brief. Dicots root. Epidermis is the outermost layer with unicellular root hairs. Cortex is made up of parenchyma. Endodermis consists of barrel-shaped cells without any intercellular spaces. Casparian strips are present on the tangential and radial walls, and they are impermeable to water. Pericycle is made up of parenchymatous cells. Now pith is small or inconspicuous. So here you will see the central pith here. This pith you can't even know whether it is a prominently. So that is why it is said inconspicuous or absent. Pericycle, vascular bundle and pith together form the stellar region. Vascular bundles are arranged in radial. In this, xylem and phloem are arranged separately. Xylem and phloem are situated on alternate radii of an axis. So this is about the dicot root. Now let me get into monocot root. So if you look at the monocot root, this diagram looks almost similar, but here you will find a polyarch condition. There in the dicot root you saw 4 to 6 will be there. Here you will see polyarch condition of the vascular bundles. Pith is large and well developed. So here you find a pith. This pith is large and it is well developed, and these do not show any secondary growth. Now apart from the figures, you should also understand what is important in this anatomy, that is the differences. So these differences have been tabulated for you to understand it better. Now if you look at a dicot root and a monocot root, cortex is comparatively narrow in dicot root, cortex is very wide in monocot root. Endodermis is less thickened, Casparian strips are prominent, endodermal cells are highly thickened, and Casparian strips are visible only in the young roots. Xylem and phloem bundles vary from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6. Xylem and phloem are more than 6, that is polyarch condition. Pith is absent or very small. Pith is very well developed. Secondary growth takes place with the help of vascular cambium and cork cambium. Here in monocot root, there is no secondary growth seen. Now let us look into anatomy of the stem. So we are trying to explain to you the structure and also highlighting the parts which you have to understand, and also comparing the two structures. Now let us look at the dicot stem. So this dicot stem is very, very important. I know it would be a little tricky. What you are expected to do, I would tell you, is you take a printout of this. You can't be drawing and practicing. You take a printout of this, or just take this picture, go to paint, and then in the paint you have the option of erasing all the labels. You erase everything, save it, and then take prints of it, and then start practicing so that it becomes easier for you. Now in the dicot stem, if you look at it, epidermis again forms the protective layer with a layer of cuticle about it. It may have trichomes and the stomata. So here what you see, these are the epidermal hair or the trichomes. Dicot stem also shows 3 zones. One is the hypodermis. Few layers of cells below the epidermis forms the hypodermis. They provide, and it is made up of parenchyma cells, and they provide the mechanical support to the young stem. Now next one is the cortical layer. Below hypodermis you will find cortical layer, which is made up of parenchyma cells. As they are parenchyma cells, they have a lot of intercellular spaces, and then you have the endodermis, innermost layer of the cortex, and vascular bundle here can be described as conjoint open with endarched protoxylem. Is it clear? Now let us look into the monocot stem. Hypodermis it also has got epidermis. Epidermis will have a cuticle. Now let us look at the hypodermis. It is sclerenchymatous, but in dicot stem it is parenchymatous. In monocot stem it is sclerenchymatous. Vascular bundles, you find them, they are scattered here and there. Bundle sheath and large conspicuous parenchymatous ground tissue. The vascular bundles are conjoint and closed. They are usually 2 to 4 xylem and phloem patches. Now with this, let us try to describe the different, let us try to find the differences. So if you look at dicot stem, Ground tissue is differentiated into cortex, endodermis, pericycle, and pith. Ground tissue is undifferentiated. Vascular bundles are arranged in the form of a ring. Vascular bundles are scattered throughout the ground tissue. Vascular bundles are open without bundle sheath and wedge-shaped outline. Vascular bundles are closed, surrounded by sclerenchymatous bundle sheath, which are oval or rounded in shape. Stem shows secondary growth due to the presence of the cambium present between xylem and phloem. In monocot stem, secondary growth is absent. Stomata will have kidney-shaped guard cells. Stomata will have dumbbell-shaped guard cells. Please make a note of this. This they can ask you to find out whether it is a key feature in identifying dicots and monocots. So in dicot stem, the guard cells will be, stomata will have guard cells which are kidney-shaped, and in monocot stems, you will have stomata which are dumbbell-shaped. Now let us look into anatomy of a leaf. So this is the structure of a dicot leaf. Here also it is made up of an epidermis, upper epidermis, which is called as the adaxial epidermis, and lower epidermis, which is called the abaxial epidermis. Now epidermis covers both the surfaces, upper surface and lower surface, with conspicuous cuticle. That's why it is called as a dicot leaf, is also called dorsiventral leaf. Now the lower surface will have more stomata than the upper surface. That is to prevent the transpiration. That is why the lower stomata will have more, the lower epidermis has more stomata when compared to the upper epidermis. Mesophyll tissue is the tissue between upper epidermis and the lower epidermis. Chloroplasts are found in the mesophyll and they help in photosynthesis. Here can you see two kinds of cells here which are long, elongated, column-like structures. These are called as the palisade mesophyll or palisade parenchyma cells. And here you find round circular structures, and these are called as the spongy parenchyma or spongy mesophyll cells. So this palisade parenchyma has got photosynthetic pigments, and hence it helps in photosynthesis. Spongy parenchyma has got lot of air spaces, and this helps in gaseous exchange and also helps in gaseous exchange. Now if you look at the vascular bundles here, it is surrounded, described as conjoint and collateral. So it is easy for you to identify a dicot leaf and a monocot leaf. Now in the monocot leaf, if you see here, the stomata are present both on the upper epidermis and in the lower epidermis. That is why it is called isobilateral leaf. And then the mesophyll is not differentiated into palisade and spongy parenchyma. On the upper epidermis, you will find certain cells which get modified into large, empty and colorless cells called bulliform cells. These bulliform cells will give the turgidity to the leaves. Now let us look into the differences between the anatomy of the leaf, dorsiventral leaf or a dicot leaf and a isobilateral leaf. So in the dorsiventral leaf, stomata are absent or less abundant on the upper side. Stomata are equally distributed on both the sides. Mesophyll is differentiated into two parts, upper palisade parenchyma and lower spongy parenchyma. Here mesophyll is undifferentiated. Bundle sheath is single layered and it is formed of colorless cells. Now bundle sheath may be single or double layered. Hypodermis is of the mid region is the collenchymatous. Hypodermis of the midrib region is sclerenchymatous. Now with this we have completed about the kinds of tissues. From tissues we have seen the organization in root, stem and the leaf of both dicot and monocot. Now the last part is we have to look at the secondary growth in dicot stem. So growth means an increase in the girth or diameters in plants. So vascular cambium and car cambium are involved in secondary growth. So these are the actual steps. Formation of a cambial ring, intrafascicular cambium and interfascicular cambium gets formed. Formation of secondary xylem and secondary phloem forming a cambial ring. Formation of springwood and autumnwood and development of parcambium. So at the end of all these things, this will be the product. Now let me explain to you about this secondary growth in brief. Now, vascular cambium, the meristematic layer that is responsible for cutting the different, this is of the dicot roots we are showing, but not much of the difference is seen between dicot stem and the root. So you can follow this diagram when I'm telling you the explanation. The changes will be only with respect to A and B diagrams, but again it will be the formation of the ring as it is. So the meristematic layer that is responsible for cutting off the vascular tissue, xylem and phloem, is called vascular cambium. In the young stem, it is present in patches as a single layer between xylem and phloem, and later it forms a complete ring. Formation of cambial ring. In dicot stems, the cells of cambium are present between primary xylem and primary phloem is the interfascicular cambium. The cells of the medullary rays adjoining these intrafascicular cambium becomes meristematic, and then they form the interfascicular cambium. Thus, a continuous ring of cambium is formed. Now let us look at the activity of the cambial ring. So far, interfascicular cambium and intrafascicular cambium are formed, and then they form a continuous ring. Now what happens after the formation of the continuous ring? The cambial ring becomes more and more active and begins to cut off new cells both towards the inner and the outer sides. The cells cut off towards the pith will mature into secondary xylem, and the cells that are cutting off towards the periphery will mature into secondary phloem. The cambium is generally more active on the inner side than on the other. As a result, you will find the amount of secondary xylem produced is enormous when compared to secondary phloem, and secondary xylem will form a compact mass. The primary and secondary phloems will get gradually crushed due to the continued formation of secondary flow and accumulation of secondary flow xylem. The primary xylem, however, remains more or less intact in or around the center. At some places, the cambium forms a narrow band of parenchyma which passes through the secondary xylem and secondary phloem in the radial directions, and these are the secondary medullary rays. Now let us look at spring wood and autumn wood. The activity of the cambium is under the control of many physiological and environmental factors. In temperate regions, if you see, the climatic conditions are not uniform throughout the year. In the spring season, cambium is very active and produces a large number of xylary elements having vessels with wider cavities. The wood formed during this season is called spring wood or early wood. In winter, the cambium is less active and forms few xylary elements that have narrow vessels, and this wood is called the autumn wood or the late wood. Now let us look at heartwood and sapwood. In old trees, the greater part of the secondary xylem will become dark brown in color. It is due to the deposition of organic compounds like tannins, resins, oils, gums, aromatic substances. They all get accumulated, and these substances make it hard, durable, and resistant to the attacks of the microorganisms and insects. Now, this region will be composed of only dead elements with highly lignified walls, and these is termed as the heartwood. Heartwood will not help in water conduction, but it will give mechanical support to the plant. Now let us look at the cork cambium. As the stem continues to increase in girth due to the activity of vascular cambium, the outer cortical and epidermal cells get broken and need to be replaced to provide new protective layers. Hence, sooner or later, another meristematic tissue will be formed, and that tissue is called as the cork cambium or phellogen. Now, phellogen is made up of narrow, thin-walled and many rectangular cells. Phellogen will cut the cells on both the sides. The outer cells will differentiate into cork or phellum. Please remember cork or phellum, make a note of it, with inner walls differentiating into secondary cortex or phelloderm. The cork is impervious to water due to suberin deposition in the water in the cell wall. The cells of the secondary cortex are parenchymatous. Now, what is a periderm means? Phellogen, phellum, and phelloderm collectively make the periderm. Due to the activity of cork cambium, pressure will build up on the remaining layers peripheral to phellogen, and ultimately these layers die and slough off. So, bark is a non-technical term we give to all the tissues exterior to the vascular cambium, therefore including secondary phloem. Now, bark refers to number of tissue types, namely periderm and secondary phloem. Bark that is formed early in the season is called the early bark or the soft bark, which is formed later is called as the late bark or the hard bark. Now, at certain regions, the phylogen cuts off closely associated. Now, if you look at it, lenticels. Now, at certain regions, phylogens will cut off closely arranged parenchymatous cells on the outer side instead of the cork cells. These parenchymatous cells soon rupture the epidermis, forming a lens-shaped opening called lenticels. Lenticels help in gaseous exchange between the outer atmosphere and internal tissue of the stem. So they occur in the woody trees, and that's why you see a kind of transpiration, lenticular transpiration occurring in the woody trees apart from cuticular transpiration. Now, this you had to make a note of these differences: intrafascicular cambium and interfascicular cambium. So intrafascicular cambium is the meristem, which is primary in origin. In interfascicular cambium, meristem is secondary in origin. In intrafascicular cambium, primary phloem is present between primary phloem and primary xylem. Here it is present at the time of secondary growth between the vascular bundles. Intrafascicular cambium originates from procambium of the apical meristem. Permanent cells of the medullary race change in interfascicular cambium due to dedifferentiation. So, if you understand the differences, this they might ask. Okay. Now let me visit and use the same thing to explain the diagram of secondary growth in the roots. This is the diagram. In dicot root, the vascular cambium is completely secondary in origin. It originates from the tissue just below the phloem bundles, a portion of pericycle tissue above the protoxylem, forming a continuous and a complete wavy ring, which later becomes circular. Now, the further events, if you look at it, that's why I said I have utilized the same diagram to explain. The changes will be only in this, and figure B, how they form the cambial ring. Later on, the secondary growth is similar to that as seen in the dicot stem. Now, let us look at some of the differences. Now, if you look here, spring wood and autumn wood. Spring wood is called as the early wood. Autumn wood is called the late wood. Cambium is active, cambium is less active. Xyrary elements are more in spring wood. They are less in autumn wood. Vessels have wider cavities. Vessels are narrow. They are light brown in color with low density. They are dark with high density. Now, if you look at central or inner region of the stem that is hard, durable, and resistant to the attack of microbes and insects, sapwood is the peripheral region of the stem and it is lightly colored. It is not involved in water conduction, and sapwood is involved in water conduction. Now, there is one more thing you need to know: hardwood and softwood. Hardwood is also known as angiospermous wood. This they can ask you. The other name for hardwood, angiospermous wood. Softwood is known as gymnospermous wood. So tracheids and vessels are present. In the softwood, only tracheids are present because gymnosperms lack vessels. Here the vessel is porous due to the presence of wood is porous due to the presence of vessels. It is non-porous because it lacks the vessels. Xylem fibers are in plenty. Here xylem fibers are fewer. And hardwood, it is very difficult to work because it is very tough and thick to work, whereas softwood, it is easy to work. So with this, we have summarized and completed the lesson. Any questions? Any questions?
Ma'am. Hello.
Hello. Yes, Swapna, I completed. Elongate by the activity of the intercalary meristems. They help in the elongation. Shoot apex is protected by the primordial leaves. Which of the following is a well-differentiated tissue? Apical meristem, cambium, parenchyma, all of the above. It is parenchyma because apical meristems and cambium still have the capacity to differentiate again, while as parenchyma would not have that capacity. Cells of parenchymatous tissue are characterized by intercellular spaces. While explaining, I told you, even in the section when I was explaining, parenchymatous tissue is there, so it will be having a lot of intercellular spaces. Now, food is transported by phloem. In true hydrophytes, stomata are present in upper epidermis, lower epidermis, none of the sides. Now, girth of dicot stem increases by the activity of the lateral meristems. Now, in monocot stem, secondary growth does not occur because vascular bundles are closed. A tissue which occurs outside the vascular bundle is known as bark. While explaining, I told you the tissues that are present outside the vascular cambium are known as the bark. Next, let me look into the next question. If a signboard was hanged on the side of a high tree 5 inches above the ground in 2002, how high it does not have high, how high should it be in 2014 if the tree grows 9 inches taller each year? See, this is only to trick you children. Here the tree does not grow from the base. The tree is growing only from the apical part. Therefore, it will remain at the 5 inch itself. What type of tissue is immediately produced from a meristem? So it is the parenchyma. Now simple mechanical tissue devoid of lignin. So collenchyma. See here, parenchyma and chlorenchyma. Chlorenchyma is nothing but a parenchyma cell with chloroplast. So eliminated. Parenchyma also does not provide any mechanical support. You can eliminate. Collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Collenchyma is not made up of lignin. Sclerenchyma is made up of lignin. So the choice is collenchyma. In xylem fiber, I have 14th question. In xylem, fibers give strength to vessels. Why it did not click here? I don't know why. Okay, albuminous cells occur in phloem. I'm clicking it. It is not taking. Okay, let me end the test here. The test, yes. So here, all my answers are correct. And that is how it is going to give me an edge. Whatever I have studied, whatever I have practiced, that is helping me understand and do it. That is why we suggest that you go in for the package, because especially it's going to be very, very useful when it comes to biology. You have to do in between the lines, and even in chemistry and physics, they have done it meticulously, looking into the various ways the questions can be asked. Now, if you look at these tests, there are 38 NEET full tests, out of which 15 are tutor created and 20 or more tests are there. No, they are all from the past NEET papers. Now, these tests are really going to help you, because when you do chapter wise, it is always easier for us to score more, because it is easy for us to recall. But once we are done with it, and if we are trying to get through all the lessons, then we have to see how good we are in application, how good, and moreover speed matters. So it is better you practice more and more tests. And in case if you have any doubt, there is an ask feature here. Click on this, and then you can mail info@clay6.com. Your queries will be answered by the tutors. So we meet tomorrow. Thank you.